Welcome to the Manhood Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Mann, provider, protector, procreator, promise keeper. We want to be men who are good fathers. Today I have another guest with me, my oldest son, the one who made me a father for the first time some almost 40 years ago. We're going to ask him what kind of father I am or was, the good, the bad, the ugly. Here he is, my oldest son, who I'm extremely proud of, Justin Mann. Welcome, Justin.
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Going well. Finally, we've been working on this schedule. He came down to North Carolina to be with me, so I'm at my home studio here. I didn't have to go 3,000 miles across the country to get my final child, but I did have to wait, and our schedules wouldn't match up. So, Justin, you've known me as a dad for the longest of the four of you all. The podcast is about being a good dad, and the question always is, what is a good dad? Am I a good dad? Have I been a good dad to you, and why?
Yeah, you've definitely been a good dad, I would say. I don't know, maybe if I was younger, I would have complaints, but now, 37 years of life, I know you did the best you could, because it's a crazy world out there. Things are always changing. Unless you're a child, you don't know what the trends are. You don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So you have to adjust the trends that you're not even aware of,
right.
And one thing I say for you, and I'll probably say it a lot, is consistency. Right. You were very consistent with right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think as a kid, that's all I can ask for now,
Yeah. Okay. Any examples of me consistently making sure you were doing the right thing?
I'll start with the cars.
Uh-huh.
If we took your car or we're in your car, making sure your car stayed clean. And that's something that I know is definitely carried with me. People who get in my car, sometimes they ask, can I eat in this car? I'm like, yeah, just make sure you clean up.
Right. Yeah. Got to make sure the car.
So, but then discipline-wise, you didn't take us disrespecting you or mom or really anybody. Mm-hmm. And, that was one thing that never changed.
Yeah.
No matter how upset you are or whatever, you're not going to disrespect your elders or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Did you notice a difference between the way I was a parent to you and your brother versus your sisters?
Yeah, definitely. They got away with murder.
I was tougher on them?
No, not at all. They got away with murder. They still get away with murder. Some of the conversations you guys have, I'm like, why are you talking to my father like that? Like, don't talk to him like that.
You remember, I think Jared came home one time and the girls were playing lacrosse. And we had gotten home from the game. Joy had hurt her ankle. She hadn't been playing. She got in the game, played, hurt her ankle again. And we were home, and I wanted to take a picture because we were all together. And I was like, everybody line up, let's get in the picture. You and Jared lined up, got in the picture, and smiled. Jada and Joy is sitting there sulking because they did not want to be in the picture. I think that just tells the whole thing right away. Yeah. Nobody was happy. We didn't get the result we wanted. Nobody, we were all tired. We were all hungry. But you all lined up, smile. You and your brother, your two sisters, they were just attitude. So, yeah, there was definitely a difference. And I've talked on the podcast several times about why that was. And, boys, especially black males, are judged differently and treated differently in the world authoritatively, whereas black females are treated, even more different. And I wanted them to be able to express themselves in a intelligent way that people would receive it without being seen as angry black women. Right. So it was definitely a difference. And then, of course, your mother not being there with them versus, she was there the whole time. You were, 21? Yeah, when she passed away. So, yeah, there definitely was some differences. So what did I do that wasn't so good? And I'm sure there are lots of things because I did this podcast in response to people saying that I was a good dad and not feeling as though I were a good dad because there were so many places where I felt like I had failed, and so many things that I felt like people were saying I was a good dad because I was raising girls on my own, and I didn't think that was fair to women who raise boys on their own. So I'm sure I did some things, and especially you were the first. So you were the guinea pig. we learned how to be parents with you.
Yeah, like I can't think of anything where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had a different dad. Like, you know, like there's nothing like that. Nothing really comes to mind.
Okay.
I'll turn the question on you. What things do you think you did bad? I don't even like saying bad.
Yeah. I'm uncomfortable saying bad.
Did better.
Right. Because it is a learning process. You know, I say all the time, there is no manual. There is no set of rules that you go by to be a good dad or a bad dad. And even different children need different things from you in different ways. I can talk to you differently than I talk to your brother, differently than I talk to your sisters. And it may be about the same topic and y'all may have done the same thing, but it's a different lesson, you know, for each one. So it is very, very different. One of the things I feel like I could have done differently with you, I think, remember the year you went to UNC basketball camp? I know you loved it. You had a great time. I often look back on that and think I should have sent you to computer camp because, you know, in your spare time, you build computers. You know what I mean? Now, and, you know, we pushed you into basketball, and partly your mother was, you know, basketball fanatic. So that was one of her passions. You were a natural at the game, had a lot of natural ability and natural talent. But do you think you should have maybe explored different avenues growing up as a kid? Because we spent a lot of time with basketball.
Put it this way. I love what I do.
Okay. Right?
So I do construction management, project management, professional engineer. I love what I do. I wouldn't change that for anything. Yeah. I do get to mess with computer systems here and there and programming and things like that in work. Yeah. So when I do have those projects, I definitely enjoy them. Yeah. I don't know if I would have wanted to do that every day.
Okay.
It's just not that. It's fun to play around with, experiment with, but I don't know if I could have sat there and been a programmer or a coder or anything like that. Okay. But you're right. I probably would have definitely enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed the basketball.
Yeah. Because I see you now. You were doing what's that? Bitcoin mining, crypto mining. Yes. And Bill, tell us explain to the people what you built.
I was doing Ethereum mining. That's one of the crypto coins, more popular crypto coins out there. And I set up a rig with it's about 12 GPUs, and I made some good money during COVID doing it. But it was also fun playing with them, trying to figure out what's wrong. Why isn't this one working the way it's supposed to? Right. Tweaking the settings to get the best performance. You know, it's a balancing act between energy and generating money. So it's like if you're using too much energy, you're not going to get enough money. And everything else.
He's being very modest right now. He literally ordered the pieces and parts and built this thing from scratch and was generating money every day. It was about $70 a day at one point.
$140 at this max.
$140 a day. He was crypto mining out of cyberspace, pulling all the change together to create money and everything. And this is something he was doing for fun outside of work, not his job and everything else. So you see why I was like maybe I should have pushed him more in that area. And then, of course, you built your own desktop that you have at home, water cooled and all the lights and everything else in there. So I feel like that's one of the things that I probably could have pushed you more into in that area.
So on the other side of that, what I will say is the things that we stepped into, you were like, if you're gonna do this, put your all into it.
Yeah.
So you're like, you're gonna do basketball, do it all.
Right.
I want to say it was 1 year. This was back when I was going to Del Tech and playing junior college, and I wasn't really working out. I was just playing games, going to practice, but I wasn't working out. I wasn't lifting. I wasn't doing anything, working on my game. And you're like, you're not gonna get a scholarship doing this. You're not gonna get better doing this. You gotta work out. Just like when you was in high school, you gotta work out. So
yeah. And I got that from my dad. He was basically said to me, whatever you do it with all you got, or don't do it at all. And I remember one time telling him, Dad, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this, at my best level, so I'm not gonna do it at all. And he said, do it anyway. Oh man, what we got? He said, do it anyway, and do it the best that you can. And I expect your best. So there was no option, and it was either 100%, 110%, or nothing at all that we were asked to give in that. Okay. Anything that might have been ugly. I mean, I remember a conversation we had when it was during the summer, just before your mother passed. I'm sorry about my phone. I should have put it on mute. Just before your mother passed, and I remember us, I think we were sitting in a parking lot in Philly, and I had said to you, hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. And I remember you said to me, what does that mean? And I felt inadequate to even speak more about that and what that meant. So there were times as a dad, and that was a very trying time anyway. I mean, I had never been through that. You had never been through that. We were all kind of figuring out what was going on. It was a very confusing time, very trying time. But that was one of the times when I wish I had been able to offer more.
But you, like I said, I mean, I can't call you a bad father, because we communicated a lot more than we previously did up at that point. Like Mom, she would call me every single day. She knew my schedule better than I did, But you and me, it was kind of like, we talked. Hey, how you doing? You would come into Rochester a lot. Yeah. So I would see you, but we weren't, talking all the time. But I feel like it got to a period where we were talking almost every day. Yeah. So that was big. Yeah. I did think of something, though. Okay. So, hindsight's 2020, right? But when I was in North Carolina A&T and I was messing up, I think there should have been a time where you pulled me to the side and been like, get your stuff together. Like, what are you doing? Get your life together. Yeah. I don't know how I would have took it at the time, but I know, like, I end up having to kind of have that with myself at some point. Right. I was just like, all right, get it together. Yeah. This your last shot. You don't do it now. Just go, work at a factory or work for your family, whatever. Yeah. So that's one thing I can say. Yeah. And it should have been very aggressive.
Yeah, and not being defensive, but just to explain, I didn't know how you were doing, because if you remember, the administration there could not tell me what your grades were unless you told them it was okay. And I remember we sat in the office going over stuff, and I'm telling him what you told me as far as what your grades were, and he's looking at the screen, and it's definitely not what you told me, right? And it was just like, okay. So had I known more, I would have stepped in and done more, because
that was a lot. That school was a lot.
Yeah.
Not to throw shade at them. I love my Aggie Pride people, but that financial aid office, and they told me a lot of things that weren't true. Yeah. And instead of like trying to just step up and be a man and I'm gonna handle it, I should have been like, that's not what they told me. You know what I mean? I should have. Hey, these people are lying to me, and it's making me look crazy, but they're the ones lying to me.
Right. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And, as far as looking back on it, I'll take my responsibility in it. We, in a way, set you up to fail. You were on campus, had bought you this car, nice rims on it and everything else. You were in an environment, totally, you grew up in a very mixed environment. Here you were, on an HBCU with all these, and I mean, it looked like people were going to the club on a Tuesday afternoon. That's the way folks was dressing down there. And it was just a totally different atmosphere, different group of people and everything else, trying to make you independent so that we could get in-state tuition in North Carolina versus Delaware. So a lot of the correspondence and everything was not coming back to us. But we, set you up with the car, set you up with the house, and all of those things may have been too much as opposed to you focusing on working in school and getting good grades. So there were a lot of distractions. We attribute it to those distractions and everything. If I had it to do over again, would not have given you all of those distractions. And, even with your brother, we made sure he was securely in his second year before we got him a car. And then made sure, you all were different, but made sure everything was a little more secure to make sure you were set up.
All through high school, even middle school,
Mm-hmm.
I was in programs, playing sports.
Yeah.
So it was like a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go to college and not have that,
Mm-hmm.
just have free time.
Yeah.
The coursework I was taking wasn't that difficult either. So that made it, I don't have to study.
You didn't have to work hard to
show up, take my test,
Yeah.
and do well on it because it wasn't that difficult for me. So it that leaves you a recipe to get in trouble and fall behind where you're at a point where you done miss so much class now that now they're doing something I don't know.
Right.
So there's a mixture of things.
Yeah. So there's blame on both sides to make sure that but listen, you went ahead, you finished school. You took a custom route. I always call it a custom route. And I tell people whose kids are in school and most kids don't finish in 4 years. Justin did not finish in 4 years. You heard him explain he's a professional engineer now. So professional engineer and, taking more than 4 years to graduate from college don't seem to mix, but they mix very well with him. There was some maturing that happened along the way. Some things that happened. I remember you were working at, you talk about working in a warehouse, working at UPS, and you were stacking tires in that trailer. Tell us about that story.
I don't remember that one, but I do remember just like, it's like, what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
What I remember, you were stacking tires in a trailer for UPS. The tires fell on top of you. And you decided right then and there you were going back to school and finish school.
You don't know what it really was. So before I went to RIT, I was working at Mann's. And, some Saturdays we would do the duct cleanings and stuff. This one place, it was an attic. You could only crawl up there. And, of course, me being the youngest, smallest,
yep.
I had to go up there, and it was so hot up there. And I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Good. So you had some life lessons that pushed you into your journey. And listen, I'm extremely proud of you. We talk all the time because I'm was in construction management. You're in construction management now. I like to think that you went into it because you saw me doing it at some point and at some level, but you've taken it to a totally another level. And we talk often about what you're doing on your job and everything. And I'm really proud of the respect that you have on your job, the work that you do, and the pride that you take in really knowing in detail what's going on and how stuff is supposed to work and then communicating it to others. So I'm really proud of you in that aspect. So I have to say I was a good dad in just steering you in the right direction and making sure you had the opportunities and took advantage of those opportunities. Mm-hmm. I think I can't think of anything else that I would say I wish I had done, differently.
I know another time that you should have been a little bit more aggressive.
Okay.
That time Jared and I were playing out in Vegas. We were out there for like 2 weeks.
Lord.
We lost every single game. You didn't have an attitude or anything.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you about my nephew's baseball game, and I couldn't stand on the sideline.
Yeah.
And they're not keeping score or anything. And I was just like, it's like, hey, hit the ball and run fast, please.
Yeah.
Don't run how you run around the house. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, that was one thing. I was like, how did you do that weekend or that 2 weeks?
Now, if I remember correctly, you were there a week before Jared and I got there.
Okay.
So you were there for 2 weeks. We were there for probably for about a week.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was.
But we still lost every game that week.
You still, and you know what we call the guy who was running that league. Okay, didn't call him by his name, but something that rhymes with Scam was his name, and we would call him Scam and whatever his last name was. I was dealing with him and his mess more so than what was going on with the games. Yeah, because it was it was and it was the money. It was crazy with the money. I don't know if you remember, but I used to tell you guys all the time, you better get a scholarship to go to college because I'm spending your college money now. Yeah. Okay, with all of the AAU and stuff, the travel and so forth and so on. And we had gotten you all out to Vegas. I was out there with you, and then the guy wanted another $1,500, $2,000 for y'all to play. And I was, so we were back and forth with that. Trust me, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that you all really weren't privy to. So winning the games wasn't as important to me as him being fair. Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. Wasn't
That's understandable. Because I know who you're talking about, so I get it.
You know exactly who I'm talking about. All right. So listen, folks, thank you. Thank you all for listening, for tuning in. This was my son, my oldest son, talking about me as a dad. I think when you talk about a good dad or a bad dad, the kids who are being fathered have a voice in saying, are you a good dad or a bad dad? There are dads who are physically present, who are not good dads. There are dads who are not physically present in the house, who happen to be good dads. So that's not always a determinant as to whether someone is a good dad or a bad dad. I think one of the consistent things you've heard from my 4 children was consistency and presence, always being there, always being able to be counted on. So that's probably one of the things that we can count on as being a good dad. That is definitely one of the top ingredients. Listen, I hope you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen, wherever you get your podcast, share it with a friend. The podcast is designed for, of course, people who are fathers and want to be better fathers. It's designed for people who have a father and don't fully understand why their father behaves the way that they behave. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and contact me and say, hey, I listened and now I understand why my father is the way that he is, so that you can forgive them. The forgiveness of your father is not for them. It is for you. Thank you again for listening to the Manhood Podcast.